Well, I've been often accused of just jumping to the F word or S word, not curse word, fascist and sexist. I want to make a big preface. I'm not saying I'm an angel or I'm perfect. I'm sure if people read my record, they probably might accuse me of those words. I actually try to use those words carefully. So even with Mauler and that terrible, terrible video on Black Widow, I'm careful not to just assume he's a sexist. Although I am frankly getting there because looking back on it, I think I was being a little bit too nice. We're gonna forestall a reassessment of that video, especially now with the Multiverse of Madness and Wanda being so central. A lot of his predictions have fallen short. But as crazy stupid as Mahler is, I'd have to be honest and say the origin of this disaster is Nerdrotic, because now that Black Widow video really takes a lot of cues from Gary's MsheU conspiracy nonsense. And we're going to hear him when he was beginning that craziness and just how wrong he is.
Zach pointed this out a long time ago in comics. Every time you have multiple women in a screen now, I think there's some unwritten rule that they all have to get along, even if they're antagonist, protagonist. They have to show a mutual respect, maybe throw in a couple of digs at the men's, and yeah, and basically come off perfect, even if they're bad. And if they did, and they're considered flawed, when they and usually the flaw they throw in is trusting a man. I mean, really, come on.
So, yeah, he said it himself. Women going forward in the MCU are perfect. They won't be allowed to be ethically complex or have any moral failings. It'll just be bright and positive and good, and the male characters will all look up to them. They'll learn all the right lessons. They'll be the new role models. They'll all be Ray Palpatine perfect, 100%. Kathleen Kennedy, the Force says female, blah, 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 blah. And now one of the MCU's biggest hits has at the center of it a woman who does pretty dark things, pretty evil things, and for questionable reasons. And it is a woman. They didn't retcon her as a man. As far as I know, that is Wanda. It's the Wanda we see from the early MCU films. And I do think the consensus is, yeah, she's pretty, really, really evil. And Strange directly says in dialogue, as well as the scenes in the performance, he doesn't think what she did was a good thing. He doesn't trust her. He doesn't think what she's doing is reasonable. So, no, he was just wrong. And not wrong a little bit, like 100% wrong. 200% wrong. It was just wrong, wrong. I don't even know how he thought he was going to be right, because Captain Marvel showed up in Endgame and Peter Parker flirted with her and he was clutching the gauntlet and she was all super confident and everything. I guess that was the reason for the panic. Or is she so powerful and strong? The multiverse of madness is proving him wrong again, because that version of Captain Marvel, who was black, by the way, and a woman, gets killed. The best you can say is she's kind of alive, but she was pulverized. I mean, she was really beat up. This idea that the women are off limits or they can only be good moral people or the bestest ever, I don't know. Multiverse of Madness is really putting that hypothesis under strain. I would add a final note in a deleted scene. Captain Marvel is kneeling to honor the death of Iron Man. If he actually did even a little bit of research after this atrocious video. To be fair, that video was before a lot of this was known. He wouldn't sound so stupid and crazy. So is Gary a sexist? Well, I think we can say definitely he says a lot of sexist things. I don't know, is that how he really feels? But at the end of the day, it's just a lot of ignorant commentary and really, really diminishing his credibility as a comic book reader, which is a shame because there are honest, legitimate issues you can have with the MCU as a comic book reader, but the stuff he's bringing to the table is not helpful.